back, people, and this time I am back with some good old armor tips for you guys. And this time it's going to be more of a guide, and I'm going to show you guys what I think is the best tank slash LAV setup that will help you dominate the battlefield with your little tank. Or LAV. And I'm also going to include some good positioning tips as well, because good positioning is the key to win most, if not all actually, of your tank slash LAV battles. So, let's get right into this, folks. So let's start off with the underdog here, the LAV. Now, the LAV might just be my favorite vehicle in Battlefield 4 at the moment. They're very fast, they're very maneuverable, and extremely lethal against enemy infantry, as well as tanks, actually, if used correctly. I also recommend you to have some sort of teammate or just a random friendly in there to help you deal with the enemy infantry, or, of course, to laser designate enemy vehicles. So, what is the best LAV setup in terms of weapons you should use against other armor? Because that's what we're focusing on here. Now, I would definitely stick to the, hold on, let me read this. APFSDST shell. There we go. Very confusing. A lot of letters. Now, this shell does the most damage to enemy armor and other vehicles, but, however, it does not have an explosive tip, so it will not deal any splash damage to enemy infantry. So that's where your battle buddy comes in hand as your gunner. But, if you're a lone wolf, you can, of course, always go with the classic 25mm HE shells. Now, if you find yourself on a map without any heavy enemy armor or just against infantry players, you could also equip the canister shells. Those will give you the best advantage against infantry players. Now, as your secondary weapon, you should always go with a tow missile, in my opinion, because there's really no point in using those Zuni rockets. They really don't deal a lot of damage against enemy armor, and I wouldn't go with the LMG either, because your main cannon will do just fine against infantry. Now, for the armor upgrades, always go with reactive armor, of course. I think that's pretty self-explanatory, but if you don't have that unlocked, just stick with maintenance until you do. And, of course, people, probably the most important part of the whole setup, pick a scary-looking camo that will make your enemies run for their lives. Black short camo will usually do the job. Now, let's take a look at the tank setup, and I'll go into some next-level armor maneuver tactics later on. So for the main cannon, I usually go with the Sabot shell if I find myself on a large open map. Now why, you might ask? Well, because the Sabot shell travels a lot faster compared to both the AP and the HE shell. Now that means that targets that are going to be far away are going to be a lot easier to hit, and you won't have to deal with the horrible drop the AP and HE shell both have. Now, the only downside of using the Sabot shell is the damage it puts out. It puts out a little less damage compared to the HE shell, especially if you hit your targets from the side or from the rear. Now, to give you an example of the Sabot shell, it will deal about 35 damage to the side of an enemy tank, and the HE shell will deal 44 damage. So it will take you about 4 shots to take down enemy armor with the Sabot shell instead of 3 shots with the HE shell. So it will depend on the map and the way you like to engage your opponents. Now, if you like to get up close and shove one of those shells straight up the enemy's butt, definitely go with the HE shell. But if you're like me and you like to take down enemies from a distance, that sounds a lot better. The Sabot shell is your friend, people. And by the way, let's be honest, the Sabot shell sounds way cooler. You would think that that freaking thing is a nuclear, like a Russian nuclear warhead or something. I don't know, maybe it's just me. Now, I very quickly want to show you guys the difference in travel speed, so that you can really see how fast the Sabot shell actually travels compared to the HE shell, and you will see how much of an advantage you have using that thing over distance. Now, as your secondary, I would go with either the laser-guided shell or, of course, my personal favorite, the HMG, because sometimes I just do not trust the infantry murdering skills of my gunner. However, if you have a good gunner in your tank that you can directly communicate with, you can definitely go with the laser-guided shell, but I usually go with the HMG when I'm not playing with friends. It just gives me more of an advantage against infantry when I don't have a gunner, or when I have a gunner with poor gunning skills. Also, the HMG is just super accurate at range and will deal a lot more damage against infantry compared to the regular LMG. Now, I didn't explain all the damage models of all the different shells and whatnot, just to make the video not too boring for you guys. You know, I want to make it somewhat interesting and entertaining. I don't want to be reading a whole bunch of numbers in front of you guys. So I have put a link in the description that will bring you to a page where all the different damage models are explained and laid out for you guys. So I suggest you all go take a look at it. It's very useful when you're trying to pick the right weapon for the right situation, and it also gives you all of the info you need on how many shots it takes to actually take down enemy armor, so I suggest you guys go check it out. Now let's move on to some next level armored tactics. Now the very first thing that you should all know and be aware of is that your armored vehicle is not as armored and infantry proof as some of you guys might think. It only takes one guy who is half decent at using an RPG to ruin your day as a tank/LAV operator on the battlefield. So always be aware of enemy infantry, guys, and for God's sakes, watch out for those sneaky C4 planners. If you see an idiot running towards your tank like a YOLO, just not giving a fuck, he's most likely gonna try to C4 you, and be sure to take out those guys first. They are your #1 enemy. Not the tanks, not the LAVs, but the C4 YOLO boys. They are real people. It is a secret society that is dedicated to blow up everything with either wheels or tracks. So you have been warned, guys. So now that you know that, let's move on to positioning and exposure. Now, positioning yourself the right way whilst engaging the enemy is crucial in this game. If possible, always try to outmaneuver the enemy and attack from the rear or the side. That will absolutely deal the most damage. What you should also try to do is use cover whenever you're in a tank battle, just like you would as an infantry player. Using cover correctly is key to winning armor battles, and you can use anything. You can use rocks, you can use small hills, or any kind of structure that will stop a shell. Try to play with tanks and LAVs like you would play any infantry class as far as positioning goes, and that includes peeking as well, guys. If you engage an enemy from behind cover, just peek, fire off that first shot at the enemy, and quickly go back behind cover so that you can reload your shell while not taking any damage. And once that shell is reloaded, just peek again and take another shot at the enemy, and just repeat that process until the enemy armor is down. Now try to use these tactics, guys. Let all the information soak in for a bit. Rewatch the video later if needed. I know it's a lot of information, but at the end, all of these tips will definitely help you guys out. And of course, do not forget to go check on those damage stats. Now that's it for now, guys. I hope you enjoyed and got something out of it. And if you did, of course, find it useful, do not forget to leave a like and possibly share the video, because it really does help out the channel. And yeah, that's it, guys. Thanks again for all the support. I really do appreciate it, and I love you guys for it. I really do. Alright, guys. I am Dolce, and I'll see you in the next video.